Hello, thank you for joining me for today's class. We're going to focus on sensation as we practice our yoga today. There's several reasons for this. One is by paying attention to the sensations, if those sensations are healthy and pleasant, paying attention to them increases our enjoyment of our practice. That is absolute key to making yoga part of your life in a sustained way. If you aren't enjoying your practice, the likelihood that you'll continue with it over a period of years or decades falls away. Second reason is if we're paying more attention to the quality of sensations, much less likelihood of injury and more potential for benefits. Okay? The more attention we pay, the more we fine-tune our practice, the more the results improve as we go along through the practice itself. Okay? The main reason, though, that I'd like to focus on is how we memorize, how we store the memory of movement. And we used to think that the motor cortex stored the blueprint, so that if, for instance, you think about something that you know how to do, and you know how to do it really, really well, where is that memory of how to do it stored? And we used to think that the motor cortex had the blueprint and it would send the instructions to the muscles and the muscles would obey. And that may be a small part of it. But a more significant aspect is that the action is actually stored not in the motor cortex as much as in the sensory cortex. We remember what it feels like to do that. And then we compare what is to what we remember. And if there's a discrepancy, then we make a course correction. We adjust our practice. Take a moment just to see that for yourself. Close your eyes and then imagine doing something that you already know how to do really, really well. Physical, like kicking a soccer ball or juggling or knitting or picking up the keys and putting them in the ignition of your car. Now, if you really strongly imagine doing it, you may notice that what you're doing or what you're creating in your mind is the memory of the sensation of doing it. You know how it feels to do it. Okay? So that's the primary blueprint. When you understand that, then you can improve the speed and the quality at which you move information into muscle memory by paying more attention to the sensations in the moment. The more you pay attention to sensation in the moment, the more easily and the better you'll remember it in the future. Take a moment to get comfortable. Draw the flesh out from the sit bones. Reach the sit bones back. Tilt the pelvis forward. And then lengthen through the waist, through the sternum, through the collarbones. Broaden through the shoulders. Turn your attention to your breath. Allow the breath to be smooth, fluid, steady, and slow. Breathing diaphragmatically down into the lower abdomen. Relax your face, your jaws, your lips, your tongue, your mouth. Let your mouth hang open slightly, slack-jawed. And then very gently release your neck, let your head tilt. And then floating your head around slowly, lazily. Avoiding any strong sensations. Not trying to stretch the neck. Just creating delicate sensations, moving them around and through the shoulders and the neck as you focus on breathing, stretching the exhale into a sigh, and relaxing. Take a few more breaths. Coming back to center. So the process of learning yoga, learning asana, learning anything physical, is actually a little more complicated than that. What we've been talking about is focusing on the sensation and how that moves or creates a map, a blueprint to repeat the action. The problem is if we're creating sensations that are false, if we are doing our poses incorrectly, then we're creating an incorrect blueprint. So, initially, you have to work from motor cortex and from your cerebral cortex, or from a teacher's instructions. In other words, you have to think your way into the pose. That will help you to do the pose right in the moment. The problem is getting stuck there, where 5 years from now you're still thinking your way in. So as you think your way through the pose, the key is keep focusing on the sensations you're creating. Okay? And that is where you get the biggest payoff. So intellectually, do make sure your alignment is good, but then focus on how it feels to be doing the pose with good alignment. With a little practice, you don't even go through the thinking part, you just recreate the feeling of good alignment. Let's start with a twist, lifting and rotating. Find the right shoulder blade, draw it around and down, lift the chest forward and up, cross the left hand over, lift, expand, rotate, turning to your right. Now use both hands, a little less or a little more. Lift and rotate a little less or a little more. And keep adjusting, trying to find the healthiest, most pleasant sensation. Backing away from discomfort or anything that feels awkward or unnatural or uncomfortable. And then working a little deeper into anything that feels good. Take another breath or two. Coming back to center. Switching sides, leading with the left shoulder. Crossing the right hand over the opposite knee. Lift, expand, and rotate. Looking over the left shoulder. One more breath. Coming back to center, circling with the ribs. And reversing directions. And then rolling out the shoulders. Taking a moment to breathe. So, we're going to do a technique that is designed to speed up that movement of learning, to accelerate learning, especially kinesthetic, physical learning. The way we're going to do that is to come into a pose the first time, thinking your way in, which another way to think about that is really focusing on getting good alignment. Okay? The second time we do the same pose, you're going to think your way into it, but you're going to shift your focus towards what it feels like. The third time and final time we do the pose, you're going to focus on the sensation and recreate the sensation. Skip the thinking your way in and try to feel your way in. Okay? And we'll do that because we're going to be doing some of the poses 3 times. We'll just pick out a few of the most important poses like Trikonasana, downward facing dog. Okay? Let's come to our hands and knees, cat-cow. breathing with the movement. Take a couple more breaths. Improvising, reposition your hands, add a little asymmetry. Feeling your way around, occasionally repositioning your hands. The greater the variety of hand positions and movements and sensations, the healthier for your fascia. Take a breath or two to finish. Couple of regular symmetrical cat-cows. And back to neutral. Tuck the toes, walk the hands in, lift the knees, standing forward bend. Feet hip width, outer edges parallel. If you remember how to lift the arches on your feet, you can go ahead and do that. If your low back is vulnerable, if the hamstrings are tight, come up a little bit higher, placing your hands on your thighs. Those of you that prefer to lean into a deeper stretch, that's fine. Bend the left knee a little more. Stretch the right leg. Bend the right knee a little more, stretch the left. Go side to side a few times. Balance the stretch evenly. Take a few more breaths. When you're ready, roll up. Let your knees buckle, stack the vertebra, coming upright. We'll take a few moments to pandiculate. Float the arms out to the side. Drop the muscles, float the bones, and then keeping a loose, heavy laziness in the arms as you expand. Then lift one heel, bend the knee, move your wrists, your fingers, your shoulder blades. Focus on the sensation, create sensation, begin to move it through the body in a way that feels good. As if you were just waking up on a lazy afternoon nap. Roll out the shoulders. Step your feet a little closer together. Vinyasa Sun Salutation. Bring your hands to prayer position over the heart. On an inhale, float the arms overhead. Hold. Now, lift the pelvic floor. Firm the abdomen, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha. Lift the chest, bring the base of the throat back, lengthen the back of the neck, Jalandhara, the three bandhas. So the pelvic floor firming, the abdomen firming, the chest lifting, the throat drawing back, back of the neck lengthening. And then holding on to all of that, take not your hands as much as your shoulder blades and shoulders back, and your chest forward. Sink the shoulder blades. Lift the chest. Take a breath. Release into a supported forward bend.
coming over just far enough that you pick up a stretch in the legs, but it's mild. And then bend the knees, roll back up. Same thing. Float the arms overhead, lift the pelvic floor, lift the abdomen, lift the chest. Take the throat back, lift up through the back of the neck, float the chest, sink the tailbone, firm the abdomen. Holding on to all of that, take the shoulders back. Focus now on the sensation of all of those actions. The sensation of the pelvic floor, the abdomen, the mid-back, low back, the upper back, the chest, the shoulder blades, the neck. Adjust so the sensations feel good, and then focus on really feeling this position and taking it into muscle memory. One more breath, and release into a supported forward bend, or release further if it feels safe. Roll up, buckle the knees, stack the vertebra. Once again. And this time, less thinking. Try not to think your way into the pose. Instead, try to remember how it felt to do the pose right. Float the arms overhead, lift the pelvis, firm the abdomen, lift the chest, shoulders back. And then try to recreate the feeling of the pose and focus on that. Take a breath. And supported forward bend, or release all the way. Roll up, back to prayer. Now, Vinyasa Sun Salutation, working with the rhythm of our breathing, 5 or 10 more repetitions, moving from the memory of the sensation now rather than thinking as much. Try to feel the movement, and then adjust so it feels good. Stretching overhead on the inhale, releasing into the forward bend on the exhale. At any point, if you get lost, think your way into the pose, but as you think your way in, feel it. And so eventually, you can just remember how it feels to do yoga, and the body can do the yoga without the thinking. 2 or 3 more repetitions. One more time. Hold the overhead stretch, add a side stretch. Lift the left heel, flare the right ribs. Lift the right heel, flare the left ribs. Go side to side. A little bit of a back bend. Supported forward bend. Stay at this level. Place your hands above the knees, and then begin to bend the knees and take your hips back and down. Try not to let your knees come forward. Try to keep your knees back and your hips down. Now with your hands, lift the chest so your back is nice and flat. Roll the shoulders back, broaden through the shoulders. Wait until your thighs are getting just mildly fatigued, then add the arms. 2 or 3 breaths. One more breath. Chair pose. Stretch up on an inhale. Float the arms down. Release into a forward bend. Supporting it first. And if everything feels okay, working your way further. Stretch the exhale. Take a breath or two. And roll back up to standing. Trikonasana. Step your feet wide. Turn the left foot out 90 degrees. Turn the right foot in. Lift the heel, take it wide, set it down. Now see if you can spiral the left leg. Spiral the right leg. This involves rooting through the inner edge of the foot, pulling up and out on the thighs. Keeping that, shift your hips to the right. Lengthen the lower rib cage, hand on thigh, shin or floor. Shoulders back, chest open. And then hand on hip or float the arm. If it feels safe, turn the head. If that feels awkward, keep your neck safe. Finding a position for the head that doesn't create any strain. One more breath. And switch sides. Turn the right foot out. Lift the left heel, take it wide, set it down. Spiral the right leg, spiral the left leg. Shift the hips to the left. Tilting the pelvis. Lengthen the low rib cage. Roll the shoulders back, open the chest. Hand on hip or float the left arm out. Two or three breaths. And coming up, going back to the first side. Turn the left foot out, turn the right foot in. Good. Now, as we come into the pose, execute the pose from memory, but also try to really focus on feeling and remembering how it feels. Spiral the left leg, spiral the right leg, shift the hips to the right, tilt the pelvis, lengthen the low rib cage, roll the shoulders back. Either float the right arm or rest it on your hip. Reactivate the spirals in the legs and expand your whole body, opening and expanding. Take a breath or two. Second side. Turn the right foot out, turn the left foot in. Shift your hips to the left. Spiral the right leg, spiral the left leg. Tilt the pelvis. Lengthen the low rib cage. Hand on thigh, shin or floor. Shoulders back. And then rest or float the left arm. 2 or 3 breaths, really focusing on how it feels. Continuing to work on your alignment, but focus on feeling the result of that alignment. And coming up. Going back to the first side, last repetition. If you need a little guidance, just follow along with my voice. Otherwise, try and just feel your way into the pose. Those of you who need a little assistance, turn the left foot out, turn the right foot in. Shift your hips to the right. Spiral the left leg, spiral the right leg. Lengthen the low rib cage. Roll the shoulders back, open the heart. And then resting the hand or floating the right arm out. Finding a comfortable position for the neck. 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 more breaths. Focus on feeling the pose and then improving the quality of those sensations. Try to expand in such a way that it feels good. Take a breath or two. Switch sides. Turning the right foot out, left foot in. Feel your way into the pose. If you need a little help, listen to my voice. Spiral the right leg, spiral the left leg. Shift the hips to the left, tilt the pelvis. Lengthen the low ribs. Roll the shoulders back, open the chest, position your head, and rest or float the left arm. Turn your attention back to the quality of the sensations and adjust in such a way that it feels better. Couple more breaths. Going back to the first side, Virabhadrasana 2. A little wider stance. First time around, think your way through. Make sure your back foot is turned in by lifting the heel, widening it, setting it down. Now with the left leg straight, spiral the left leg. Keep spiraling it as you begin to bend the knee. If you aren't sure about the concept of spiraling, my previous video goes into that in more detail, the previous 2 or 3 videos. So as we spiral the leg and then bend the knee, stop when the knee is directly over your heel. You're lengthening the inner edge of the thigh, you're contracting the outside edge. That combined action is going to swing the left knee to the left a little bit and open the groin more. Keeping that, lift and externally rotate the right thigh, and the hip sockets start to open. Try not to lean out to the left. Bring your shoulders square with your hips and sink your weight into the right hip. Float the arms, drop the shoulders, open the heart, turn just your head. Take another breath. Switch sides. Turn the right foot out. Lift the left heel, take it wide, set it down. Start with the legs straight, spiral the right leg. Keep spiraling it as you begin bending. Stop it vertical. If that's too easy, walk wider, lunge deeper. Square up your shoulders with your hips. Straighten the back leg, strengthen the back leg. Lift, externally rotate the left thigh. And on the right thigh, lengthen the inner thigh, contract the outer thigh until you feel the thighs rolling away from each other and the groin opening. Float the arms, sink the shoulders, open the chest, turn your head. Sink your weight into the left hip socket. Take a breath. And come up. Second time. Turn the left foot out, turn the right foot in. Now this time focus on thinking your way in as little as possible, feeling your way in as much as possible. Spiral the left leg, bend the knee, coming into your lunge. Spiral the right leg, feel both hips opening. Shoulders square, weight centering in the back hip, float the arms, sink the shoulders, open the heart, turn the head, and then focus on the feeling of coming into the pose and the feeling of the pose. Take a breath or 2 or 3. Lift the pelvic floor, firm the abdomen, sink the tailbone. And switch sides. Turn the right foot out, turn the left foot in. Spiral the right leg, begin bending the knee. Spiraling the left leg until both hips start to open. Sink your weight into the left hip socket. Float the arms, drop the shoulders, open the heart, turn your head to the right. Lift the pelvic floor, firm the abdomen, lift the chest, sink the tailbone. And then turn your attention to how it feels. Remember what it felt like coming into the pose, and remember what the pose feels like when you're doing all of those actions. One more breath. And Forward bend. Feet wide. Walk your hands down to your thighs or shins or to the floor. 2 or 3 breaths. Stretch the exhale. Step your feet together and roll back up. Last repetition, stepping wide. And this time try to remember how it felt to come into the pose, and then try to move from the memory of sensation. Turn the left foot out, right foot in, spiral the leg, bend the knee, spiral both legs, float the arms, sink the shoulders, open the heart. Keep your weight in the right hip. Now expand and contract in such a way that it feels healthy and right. And then take that into memory. 3 or 4 breaths. Coming up, switching sides. Turn the right foot out, left foot in. And then feel your way into the pose, spiraling the right leg, bending the right knee, spiraling the left leg, shifting your weight into that left hip socket. Float the arms, drop the shoulders, open the heart, turn the head. Now spiral the legs, open the heart, expand everything. But focus on the feeling state. With practice, you want to be able to recreate the feeling of the pose without thinking. Couple more breaths. Finish with a forward bend. Take a breath or two. Coming down to the floor. Working with a back roll. Roll up your blanket from one end to the other, or use a back roller if you have one. Remember to unroll the blanket if you hit a problem area where you can't relax. Turning sideways, laying over the roller, and then bringing your arms out overhead, or bending the elbows and supporting your neck. Remember, if you can't relax, unroll the blanket enough that you can. On the other hand, if you don't feel like you're getting any stretch, roll the blanket up a little bigger. Breathing deep, stretching the exhale into a sigh. Go for 4 more minutes. When you're ready to adjust, lift your hips, push with your legs so that you roll over the top of the roller an inch or 2. Then set the hips down and relax into the new position. 1 vertebra at a time, working your way down the length of the spine. In each new position, focus on breathing and relaxing. Use your exhale
to let go. Go for 3 minutes. Take a couple more minutes. If you finish early, go back and start over. The roller in the upper back. Or 15 more breaths to finish. When you're finished, lift the hips, remove the roller. Now keeping your hips off the ground, lift one foot off the ground, bring the knee into your chest, pull the knee in until you feel the pelvis rotating slightly. Then set the low back on the floor, bring the other knee in, rock side to side. It's a simple trick for keeping your back from compressing when you hug your knees. Do one repetition of bridge. Bring your feet to the floor, close to the hips, hip width apart, outer edges parallel. Anchor the big toe, flare little toes wider. Press down through the ball of the big toe, lift the arches, holding on to that. Lift the pelvic floor, press the kidneys down, curl the tailbone up, and then lift just a few inches and hold. If you're on your period, pregnant, eaten recently, high blood pressure, hiatal hernia, glaucoma, or any other reason not to lift higher, just hold here. Those of you that want to are welcome to continue lifting higher now, letting the hips come up higher. And Jalandhara, bring your chest towards your chin and lengthen the back of your neck. Three or four breaths. Slowly come down one vertebra at a time. Stop before your hips touch the floor. See if you can find your balance as you lift one foot off the ground. Pull the knee into your chest as you set the low back on the floor and bring the second knee in, rock side to side. Now coming over onto your hands and knees.
Couple of cat-cows. And then coming down onto your stomach. We'll do 3 rounds, moving from cobra to down dog and back to cobra. And again, the first round focusing on thinking your way in, and then transitioning to the third round, not thinking, instead feeling. Coming onto your stomach, place your forehead on the floor, bring your hands back behind the shoulders, wrists under the elbows. Press the tops of the feet down until the knees lift off the ground slightly. Press the pubic bone down. Shrug the shoulders to your ears. Lift the shoulders. Now focus on the sensations in the upper back. Find the shoulder blades. Squeeze the shoulder blades into the spine. Draw the shoulder blades down the back and reach the chest forward and come up. Don't use your hands at this point. Focus on pressing down the feet, reaching the chest forward, opening the chest, shrugging the shoulder blades down the back, and feeling the back muscles work. Spread your fingers wide, middle fingers pointing straight ahead, downward facing dog. Come up onto your knees first. Bend the elbows, scoop the elbows together, keeping them bent, and then press the knuckle of the index finger into the floor as you squeeze the elbows towards each other. That's a spiral of the arms. Try to maintain that action as you lift the knees and slowly push back into downward facing dog. Press the heels down, lift the arches, lift the shins, lift the kneecaps, lift the quadriceps. Engage Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Jalandhara. Lift the pelvic floor, firm the abdomen. Adjust the alignment of your neck. Reach the hips away. Pull the chest through towards your feet, put the shoulder blades away from feet, broaden the upper back, spiral the arms, spiral the legs. Take a breath or two. And cobra. This time, as you think your way in, focus on thinking your way in less and feeling more. Press down with the feet, shrug the shoulders, roll the shoulders up, squeeze together, draw the shoulder blades down the back, reach the chest forward. Now use the techniques, everything you know intellectually, to improve the quality of the sensation. Then focus on remembering how that feels. Downward facing dog. Same thing. Bend the elbows, squeeze them together, root through the knuckle of the index finger, spiral the arms, lift the knees, reach the hips away. Reach down through the heels, lift the arches, shins, kneecaps, quadriceps. Pull the chest through towards your feet. Float the shoulder blades away from your feet. Broaden through the upper back and shoulder girdle. Couple more breaths. And now, without thinking, feel your way into cobra. This will be our last work for the back muscles. Focus on improving the quality of the sensation. The better yoga feels to you, the more likely you'll stay with it long enough to experience the full benefit. Take a breath or two or three. Downward facing dog. Down dog will be our last work for today. Two or three breaths. Bring your right knee forward. Slide the left leg back for pigeon. Start with a gentle stretch. Take a breath or two. If anything doesn't feel right, back away, reposition, and try again. If it does feel good, work your way a little deeper. Turn your attention to the exhale now. Stretch the exhale into a sigh. 5 or 6 breaths on the first side. One last down dog. Take a breath or two, and then come into pigeon pose on the second side. Once again, start with a gentle, easy stretch. Experiment, reposition until it feels right, then relax into it. Stretching the exhale into a sigh. Take a breath or two. Coming onto your back for a spinal twist. Either bring your right knee into your chest or both knees if you feel vulnerable. Then roll your legs to the left. Turn your upper body back to the right. Complete breath here. Breathe into the belly, the kidneys, the ribs, the chest, the back, the shoulders. Allow the right shoulder to lift a little bit as you finish breathing in. And then hypnotize yourself. Let the right arm get heavier as you breathe out. This position is not comfortable for you. Experiment, modify until it is. Three or four breaths. Come back to center and either bring both knees or just your left knee if you want a bigger stretch into your chest. Roll your legs to the right and twist the upper body to the left.
Take a couple more breaths. Hug both knees in. Rock side to side. And taking a moment to get comfortable for Shavasana. Try to lengthen the spine, especially the back of the spine. Float the arms out, 45 degrees away from the hips. Pull the shoulder blades together and walk them in close to the spine. The knees can be bent if you have any low back concerns or issues, or supported with a blanket under the knees. And those of you that are comfortable extending the legs, feel free to do that. Breathing diaphragmatically now. Allow the chest to become passive and still. Feel the belly expand as you breathe in, sink as you breathe out. Let the exhale be slightly longer than the inhale. Relaxing your face, your jaws, your lips, your tongue, your mouth. Fingers, hands, arms, and shoulders. Feet, the ankles, the calves, the knees, the thighs. Loosening hips, relax the buttocks. The low back, the belly, the kidneys. The ribs, the chest, the shoulders. Back of the neck and soften the throat. The jaws, the lips, the tongue, the mouth. And especially the eyeballs, the space behind, beneath, around, between the eyes. Slowly, lazily Stretching. And bring your knees to your chest. Roll to one side and take a breath or two. When you're ready, push up to sitting.
Thank you for sharing this practice, and keep this recipe in mind anytime you have to learn something new that's physical. Initially, we want to make sure that we lay down a good, clean blueprint for the movement or for the action, especially the more complex actions. So the first few times, make sure you understand how to do it and make sure you're doing it correctly. Okay? Now, if you do that, the sensations you'll be creating will be the correct sensations, and you begin to focus on those. And so the second time or third time you do it, you're focusing on still thinking your way through to create the right sensations and then trying to remember how that feels. And then the final step is when you let go of the first two steps and you think of the pose and you feel it. Okay? The same way you can feel what it feels like to pick up keys and put them in the ignition of your car. You don't have to think your way through that. You can do it without thinking. And anytime you learn something new about a pose, then you have to go through the same process to add what you just learnt to the feel state of the pose that you already have. I wish you well. I hope you're doing good, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.